Writing CSS from scratch is always a pain point to the developers from day one. For example, here to style my button, I have to write all this code by using CSS native properties like background color, padding, border radius, cursor, display, margin, hover, focus. Oh my god, this list will be even more longer in real projects. In real applications, you will see developers writing thousands of lines of styling code for a single component alone. If someone is not an expert on CSS, definitely they may not like writing the CSS from scratch, or there might be a scenario where an organization want to deploy their website or mobile application into the market very soon. So such organizations, they can't waste their time by asking their developers to develop all the styling from scratch. To help in these kind of scenarios, we have certain frameworks and libraries which are going to help developers to style their HTML element within a matter of seconds. I'm going to introduce one of such framework inside this lecture, but before that, let me show you some funny memes around CSS. The syllabus of CSS is very long. If someone want to learn from scratch, it is going to take good amount of time. On a high level, you can try to learn CSS within a day or within a week. But if you want to become an expert, it is going to definitely take months of learning and months of practice. The next meme also says how tough it is to learn a CSS. This guy is trying to explain someone on how to create a website. First, we need to add HTML to it because we want a basic skeleton to our website. Followed by to style the HTML element, we are going to add the CSS to it. The moment you try to add CSS, you're going to have a lot of CSS problems. The alignments will not work properly. The elements will not centered properly. So you will get hundreds of problems if a developer is not a so-called expert in CSS. This meme conveys what a backend developer feel when the developer started working on CSS. So initially, backend developer will think, let's try CSS. I can do it. But once he started doing CSS, definitely the developer is going to hate this CSS. This is another meme. For a backend guy, CSS is such a heavy task because he don't have knowledge on CSS. Even for some of the so-called UI developers or full stack developers, they assume they know everything around CSS. But sometimes they also frustrated with CSS because when you write CSS, you need to take care that CSS is working in all type of browsers, mobile applications for all kind of dimensions. Making your website responsive to all kind of devices is another horrible task. The next meme says on the left hand side, this is the design someone developed for a website inside Figma. Figma is a design tool where they have mockups and wireframes for a website. The moment a UI developer start working on it, it is going to look like this because the developer who developed this website, he may not be an expert in CSS. The next meme explains one of the common problems that developers face. Sometimes developers, they're going to make a very small change inside their CSS file, and with that, the website is going to behave very weirdly. This is another such example. Here we have stop symbol. Developers should display this stop within this symbol. But without proper CSS knowledge, it is going to be very tough for someone to properly align an element. One more horrible scenario inside CSS is Z-index. Using Z-index, we can give some priority to the HTML elements. For example, if there are two different HTML elements which are trying to display at the same position inside a screen, by providing high priority Z-index value, we can bring one of the HTML element to the front. This poor guy already defined a higher index value for his div, but still he can't see his div on the screen. Some other element is being displayed. This is the last meme. Many times this happens to the backend developers. When a backend developer successfully makes some changes inside CSS, all of a sudden everyone will say, hey buddy, you are a full stack developer now. Don't get carried away with those compliments from your colleagues. You will only become a full stack developer when you can develop UI components by using frameworks and libraries like React, by developing proper styling and so on. I hope you like these memes. Now, let me introduce a framework which is going to make developers' life easy in styling their UI applications. The framework is Bootstrap. There is a very good chance you might have heard about this framework already because this is a famous CSS framework that is being used inside the industry over a decade. With the help of this framework, we can build a responsive website very quickly. I'm not going to teach you everything around Bootstrap because Bootstrap itself is another very big concept. The plan is I'll show you how to use this Bootstrap framework inside your React application by showing you some demos. In the same process, I'm also going to teach you basics around Bootstrap. In case if you want to learn more about Bootstrap, my humble request is to enroll into a course that focus on Bootstrap alone, or you can always read the official documentation from this website. To use this framework inside our React application, we need to run this command npm I bootstrap. Let me go to my React application. Here inside the terminal, I'm going to execute the command which is npm I bootstrap, and I'm not going to mention any version number. With that, behind the scenes, npm is going to look for the latest stable version, and the same it is going to use. Once the Bootstrap is installed, we need to add an import statement in one of the main component of the React application. Inside our app, the main component is app.jsx. This component is going to have all other components as children's. That's why here I'm going to write an import statement from so and so folder. We're trying to import bootstrap.min.css. Where is this folder is going to present? It is going to present inside the node modules folder. If you go to the node modules folder, you are going to have a folder with a name Bootstrap. Let me scroll down. There is a Bootstrap folder. Under this, we have dist folder. Inside the dist folder, we have CSS folder. Under CSS folder, we have a CSS file with the name bootstrap min.css. This file will have thousands of styling related code. With the help of these style classes only, we should be able to style our HTML elements very quickly. We don't have to write CSS always from scratch. Let me close this file. Inside the next lecture, I'm going to show you some demos around Bootstrap. But before we move on to the next lecture, let me comment some code that we have developed inside this section. Here under the footer, I have this H1 and easy button. I no more want them. Let me comment. Followed by, I'll go to home.jsx. Here also, we have an H1 and easy button. Let me comment this as well. You can always find this commented code inside the GitHub repo. Let's start experimenting about Bootstrap from the next lecture.